Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we are going to check out the new 2025 Monster Manual that Wizards of the Coast sent. This is the third companion piece to the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide and the 2024 Player's Handbook. So this completes with this book. This completes the third core element of what's necessary to be able to play the game. While the Dungeon Master's Guide actually does contain a few small monsters here and there and creatures in it, as well as the end of the Player's Handbook, this one is the mama of all the monsters that you can find in the game. That said, I have a couple of guidelines that Wizards has sent over to me. And those guidelines specifically state what I can share, what I cannot share. And if anybody has any comments, I would definitely love to hear from you. But this is the first set of rules that they've sent to me. States that I am not to publish footage, images, or distribute files that display an entire chapter of the book end to end. That means that I can't show you a complete page-by-page turn of this. Do not publish footage, images, or distribute files that display the entire book page by page from beginning to end. For example, a flip through is not permitted. And then thirdly, do not create, upload, and or distribute any captured images or PDF version of any material provided. So how am I supposed to interpret this? Well, this is how I interpret it. I look back at my basic English classes, and basically you can remove everything after the comma and it can break down into its own individual sentence. So that last line, if I'm interpreting it correctly, should read, do not create any captured images or PDF versions of any material provided. And I interpret this to mean that I cannot make any photos or videos showing the material, i.e. the book itself. Do not upload any captured images or PDF versions of any material provided. Again, I interpret this to mean that I cannot publish, i.e. upload, any video showing the material, in other words, the book itself. And I am not to distribute any captured images or PDF versions of any material provided. And again, I interpret this to mean that while I can talk about what I see, I can't visually display the material, the book itself, in a video, such as this. Technically, that is distributing. So how am I going to pull this off? How am I going to pull off showing the contents of what's in the book? Well, I kind of created my own, not my own monster manual, but my own interpretation. So I think this is something that I can get away with. This is the world's greatest role-playing game, Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual 2025 version, and we're going to have our first look at it. If I can do a picture-in-picture here. There we go. Okay. So I would assume that this tiny little, like what you guys see right here, that's a tiny little version. I don't think I'll get in trouble for actually showing you the cover. I mean, the cover is something that we've all seen online anyway. But I wanted to show you the front cover here. And also, too, let's take a look at what the back of the book states. And I'd like to read it for you. It says that this is the ultimate fantasy bestiary. The back of the book reads, This revised and expanded monster manual contains a horde of creatures for the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons game, a monstrous menagerie of familiar favorites like dragons, giants, and mind flayers, plus a host of new monsters like the Archhag and the Blob of Annihilation. Populate your worlds and adventures with the hundreds of monsters provided, and let their stories, illustrations, and easy-to-use stat blocks fuel your D&D adventures for years to come. Now, I realize that this is a little bit fantastical. Oh, and I do want to point out that the suggested retail price, let me put it in over here where it should be, is $49.95. Okay. That's what the suggested retail price is. Now, I have to put a disclaimer that the contents of my book for display purposes look slightly different than the contents of your book. Your book will have many, many more pages than my display copy that I'm using for illustration purposes. So here's what I'd like to do is take a look at one of the first monsters within. We've got, how about just a simple ogre? And I'd like to kind of give an idea as to what it looks like. Let me flip over to the O's. Wow, I'm halfway through. Where L, M, N. How do I do? What is my alphabet? Found an owlbear. Oh, surely they've got an ogre in here, yeah? Ogres. There we go, ogres. So the ogre is as we see here, is a large giant. Chaotic evil, has an armor class of 11, and has hit 68 hit points, has a speed of 40 feet. It has a strength of 19, a dexterity of 8, constitution is 16, intelligence is 5, the wisdom is 7, charisma is 7, and it has, for actions, a great club that it can use, which has a +6 to a melee attack roll, and deals out 13, that's 2d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, as you can see here. And it also has a javelin that is an attack roll +6 and deals out 11, that's 2d6 plus 4 piercing damage. But here's the interesting part. There's another section in this book that kind of goes over what's new, what you can expect in the 2025 Monster Manual. And I'd like to kind of gloss over that a bit, kind of give you guys a sense of what you can expect. What makes this version of the book so different from the 2014 version? And essentially, what you've got, what's new? There's more monsters. There's a total of 500 monsters in this book. Well, in this book, just a few short ones in this one. There's, what do we have here? Over 500 monsters. There's dozens of new ones. You can see there, 12s of new ones. Yes, yes. And they all have updated stat blocks. There's refined rules. Every stat block has been updated. That's got enhanced stat blocks. I'm not sure exactly what that's supposed to mean, but this states that new stat block designs and language prioritize details vital during play. We've seen this in some of the released on over on X, Twitter, whatever it's called, that WotC has pushed out. We've seen a few of them that have this revised stat block. It's supposed to make everything a little more streamlined. The one element to it that I don't like is that we are missing the flair of the character, or not the character, the monster stat block. I liked the artwork direction of the block itself in the 2014 version versus, I don't know, the ones that are in this new 2025 are just kind of somewhat sterile. And give me a sec. Let's see. We've got some body. Okay. Ah, gotcha. Emojis. Couldn't see the emoji on the on this chat. Had to look over here for this one. Um, what else do we have? Oh yes. So all monsters from the 2014 Monster Manual are actually in this 2025 version or 2024, whatever they're wanting to call it. But ones that are not have had the challenge rating appropriate replacement, and that is found in an appendix at the end of the book. For example, the Quippets have been replaced with Piranha, and Lizard Folk have been replaced with just a generic Scout. So I guess Lizard Folk are out. I think they've removed those. I don't know why. I really don't know why. Again, for anybody kind of curious as to exactly what this is, so even though Wizards of the Coast sent me a review copy, I'm evidently not allowed to show you anything inside of it as per their review guidelines. So I have made a visual representation that I can show you because I created this and it looks nothing like what you see here, but it's our visual representation of it. So trying to get technical there. I'd like to also show one of the, we've got the violet fungus necrohulk. And I recently covered this guy on my channel. I'm on the YouTube channel and just kind of went over all of the stats on it. The artwork in it is amazing. It's this guy that's a big purple shroom looking guy that has skulls all over the top of his head. And he's got this body kind of half hanging out of him, right? And the overall premise is this thing sprouted up from a basic fungus and grew legs and started to absorb its enemies, and it's overall pretty nasty. The coolest part to it is that when it does absorb you, it's a grapple, basically. And when it grapples you, that thing, you've got to make, I believe it's a DC 15 acrobatics check to get out of it. And if you die while you're entangled within the necrohulk, your body is destroyed, and it gains 10 hit points. Or regains 10 hit points. Doesn't gain them, but if it's been damaged, it regains 10 hit points. And I just think that's a neat concept for it, for that kind of monster. But again, the artwork, the real artwork that I can't show you, but if you go to, this is the part that just makes no sense, right? If you go to Twitter X, you can see it there, and I'm allowed to make an individual video on it. But I can't flip to the page in this book and show you because they don't want me to. I've sent an email to them asking for clarification on that, but until I get a reply back, I'm going to abide by their rules because I want to be able to bring this information to you. But the next creature, we've got and you know what? I kind of almost like my stuff better. It's crazy. We've got the Archhag. Oh, demon? No, that must be a misprint. If y'all can see that, maybe I thought it was a blue demon. I think that's a misprint. I wonder if the main book has any misprints in it. It states that the Archhag is a large fae, kind of evil. I think kind of evil means chaotic evil or lawful evil. I'm not sure. Has an AC of 20, 333 hit points, speed of, 40 feet, a strength of 24, dex is 15, constitution is 23, intelligence is 19, its wisdom is 19, and its charisma, that's a big whopping 25. It's got a CR rating of 21. So this is going to be a pretty nasty monster to come across. Again, that's the Arc Hag. Some of these I just haven't filled out. The ink was kind of bleeding through. And I kind of wanted to just kind of drive my point a bit better. But zombies are in it. It's got a beholder. The era, like a 4-year-old wouldn't try to spell it out. Aarakocra. The succubus is all kind of messed up now. I think there's male and female succubus. Which, what was it? It was the males were succubi and the females were succubus, or maybe it's reverse of that. It's been a while since I looked that up, but I did do a video about it last year. Swords and Stones. Prefer your monster manual to the Watsy ones. Yeah, no, I've been kind of thinking about fleshing this one out a little bit. It's kind of goofy, but again, I can't show you anything from inside this book as per their guidelines. So I hate that. More stuff. Tell you what, let's switch over, make me a little bit bigger now. Okay. So a little more things about this, what you can expect to find inside. I do like the overall presentation. I like all of the way that the stat blocks or the creatures are presented in the table of contents. The book itself is broken down into 1, 2, 3, 4 different sections. You've got how to use a monster, and it kind of goes in to about 8, 9 pages that kind of describes it. It goes step by step, showing you the stat block, the stat block overview. And then it goes monster entries, parts of the stat block. And I like this, that it has a little diagram that kind of points to the different sections of different stat block of the stat block. And it details out what those sections are and how the DM can actually use them. And then also there's a section on running a monster. So if again, if you're a DM and you want to have an intelligent monster go up against the players, the section on running a monster basically states that details out what its special abilities are, explains what the multi-attack is, meaning that if it has multi-attack on any of its turns in which it's not using one of its more powerful abilities, that's when you'd want to use the multi-attack. And then, of course, it explains that the bonus actions, reactions, and legendary actions that you just want to be sure to use them as often as you can. I can't help but get the feeling that the 2014 version, as players got, specifically of the monster manual regarding that, as players gained levels, became more powerful themselves, I just can't help but wonder how many DMs really made use of all of the monster's stat block, from its most mundane, multi-attack, to its to the more advanced special abilities, reactions, that kind of thing. I just like legendary actions. For example, I'm just going to flip to a random page. Actually, somebody in the chat, just pick a, hey, Nerds Nerd, Seraphis, you're here. Just somebody pick a random page. Just give me a number between, I don't know, 1 and 300 in the chat. Don't everybody shout at once. First one to do it. That's the page we'll turn to. And it's just realizing, I'm realizing that I might be, the chat itself might be a little bit behind where I'm actually at. Page 225 from Swords and Stones. 225. That would be the Night Hag. So here's the example. The Night Hag has Coven Magic, Magic Resistance, a Soul Bag. The Soul Bag, this is kind of cool. While holding or carrying the bag, the hag can use its Nightmare Haunting action. The Nightmare Haunting action states that if the target takes damage from the dream spell, that the hit point maximum decreases by an amount equal to that damage. And I'm wondering, like, it doesn't provide. Of course, the dream spell has the saves and all that, but I just wonder how many DMs really actually use that. And Seraphis, while you're here, I wanted you to see. So this is my visual representation of the player of the monster manual. Those of you that have been here in the beginning, awesome. You'll end up having to hear this again. I can't show you anything of this book, even though we have it. I even have the really cool looking collector's edition version. I love the blue on it. I mean, it's, oh, there. That won't get me in trouble, I hope. But Butsy sent me a very specific set of guidelines, and I can't show anything from inside the book. So I made my own visual representation. And yeah. Even has, all the blurbs on the back. We've got the ISBN number, the price of it, the recommended MSRP. And you know what? Hey, it even has the zombie along with its stat blocks. We did take a look earlier at the Violet Fungus Necrohulk and the Archhag. But yeah, this is my visual aid. This is my visual representation that I can actually get away with. Yep. It's great, isn't it? It makes doing this live stream all that much more difficult because I would love to be able to at least do a thumb through, at least show you guys the overall formatting of everything that's in this book. And that's so frustrating for me because it's what I do, right? I'm not a fan of page by page, but I do at least wish I could do a thumb through so that you could kind of get a feel for what's inside the book. Cover looks like Teletubbies took some heavy shrooms. Yeah, I broke out some crayons. I mean, what 52-year-old doesn't like to play with crayons every now and again? Going back to what we can find inside. So once you get past the first section of this that tells you, how to use a monster, then it gives you the monsters A to Z. And I mean, these things it's pretty cool. Like we've got the Aarakocra Aeromancer, Aarakocra Skirmisher. You've got, let's say, the Beholder Zombie. And I do like too that they don't have everything in here in categories. Like if you wanted to look up dragon, or let me rephrase. If you wanted to look up, say, for example, red dragon. Okay. Red dragon. In order to find that, you'd have to find the section in the 2014 version. You'd have to find the section of dragons and then go alphabetically within that section. In this version of the book, in the 2025, everything's alphabetical. So if you're looking for red dragon, you're just going to go to the R's and then until you hit red dragon. If you want to find the blue dragon, you go to the B's and you'll find the blue dragon. So I like that they did that. The one thing I do have to check real quick. A lot of people know that when I get a monster manual or a bestiary or whatever, I have to take a look at the zombie. And in this case, this does have a zombie in it. And it has, now this would be the exception of going to if you were to the alphabetical order, this is where it gets a little weird because in the zombies section, you actually have zombie, ogre zombie. It does mention the beholder zombie, um, and gives a stat block for it. But going back to the table of contents, now I'm kind of curious. So, okay, so the table of contents, the index of stat blocks, as you go through, oh, okay, I retract a few things I said. Okay, so it's the index of stat blocks. That's how it's alphabetical. Um, so it may be that, let's see, let me find the blue dragon. We've got a black dragon. That's on page 38. Okay. Blue dragon is on page 48. Okay, so I guess it is still in, well, let me find the red dragon. So 38, 48, red dragon would be page 254. Okay, I was horribly wrong there. Yeah, so I guess they are still listed alphabetically throughout, but not by category. So that's interesting. I think that does make it a little bit faster to find. Man, it just dropped something. I do think that makes it, or ultimately will make it a touch faster to find the information that you're looking for, the right type of monster. No, unfortunately, Rob Zombie is not in this one. Let's see. Seraphis asks, do all the monster pages look like the previous that they already shown off, or do some pages go back to the lesser visual format? A few of them do go back to the lesser visual format. Not every single thing, and that makes sense. I mean, because not every single creature in here is going to have its own individual panel, like a full page panel. Now, I will say that there are some, for example, hobgoblins I'm looking at, and hobgoblins spans a 2-page spread. So, you've got 1, 2, 3 total stat blocks, one for a hobgoblin warrior, hobgoblin captain, hobgoblin warlord. But there's also some information about each one, like it gives you a blurb about the hobgoblin warrior and what they do, the captain and what it does, the warlord what it does, and then it goes into kind of hobgoblin warfare, like the drive to subjugate and pillage is part of hobgoblin supernatural nature. And then it kind of goes into a little bit, gives you some fun little things that you can throw into your game. There's a table here, for example, called Hobgoblin Strategies. It's a 1d6. You just roll a d6, and it determines. So if you are putting together, say, for example, a troop of hobgoblins, right? And I need to know, well, what are they doing? What is that troop doing? What is that group of 6 hobgoblins doing? The hobgoblin works to, and then you roll a d6 and you determine it. So say, for example, we rolled a 4. So this group of hobgoblins wants to construct a giant machine to strip resources. That would be one of the options. And I think that's kind of neat because it's, if I'm a DM and I run to, and I run across that particular section, I don't know exactly why you're facing them. It's just something that I just kind of pulled out of the air and threw out there. But with this little table, I can roll a d6, and now, boom, just like that, I have the table has determined why the players are encountering that group of hobgoblins. Another one would be if I rolled a 2, for example, the hobgoblin works to capture monsters and train them to fight. So, maybe, I don't know, maybe they hire the players to help capture monsters and train them to fight, or maybe the players are a bleeding heart and decide, you know what, I don't think we want to watch these group capture monsters and train them to fight. I mean, that sounds kind of mean to the monsters. Let's go ahead and murder hobo all the hobgoblins and free the monsters. Oh, little did they know that the monsters that were captured are now going to turn on the players, but that's a whole other issue. The next section is the Appendix A, which goes over animals. That's going to be stuff like frogs, giant apes, bats, centipedes. This is one, Seraphis, you were asking. The stat blocks, there's not much of a description as to what they are. Um, I mean, it's got a cat, an eagle, elephant, elk, flying snakes. You know what those are. I mean, you don't need a backstory on those. It's just the raw stat block. I mean, it still gives the same visual that all the other stat blocks have, but it's just boom, 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 boom. There you go. The next appendix is Appendix B, monster lists. That's starts on page 374. So this is just kind of another quick reference. If I can get to page 374. Okay. This is actually kind of neat. So earlier in this live stream, I was mentioning that all of the monsters from the 2014 are represented in this 2025, right? Or if they're missing, such as the lizard folk, they have been replaced with another CR rating that's equivalent. Excuse me. And the first section of Appendix B gives you what those stat block conversions would be. So, for example, the Aarakocra that we had in 2014 converts to the 2025 equivalent of the Aarakocra skirmisher. Knoll is a Knoll warrior. Grick Alpha is now a Grick ancient. And, just stuff like that. So it kind of, like I said, converts the 2014 to the 2025, makes it pretty quick if you're just looking if you have established lore at your table and you want to move the 2014 monsters and convert them up to the 2025 equivalent and still have it work. Now, there might be a few issues there in doing that. I don't know. I mean, for example, I don't know. I mean, all of these look to be fairly even across the board. Like Merfolk just become a Merfolk skirmisher. Minotaur becomes the Minotaur Baphomet. Snakes are snakes. Not very different there. The next section in this appendix is monsters by habitat. So if you are any habitat, it's broken down to any habitat: Arctic monsters, coastal monsters, desert monsters. So if you're running a game that takes everybody that's going in an ocean faring adventure, and y'all are beached, the ship crashes on the beach or something, you'd probably use the coastal monsters. And it lists everything by CR rating and then what monster you can find in that, corresponding CR. So, for example, if you wanted to run across, say you've just got what am I trying to say? Group of 5 level 1 characters, right? You want to throw something that's a little difficult at them, maybe a CR3 creature. Just kind of look down this list and find, okay, a blue dragon wormling. Those are usually found on coastal areas. Koatoa monitor or Manticore. I can't talk. Manticore. And I think that's kind of neat. Again, if you wanted to find something in a desert, it's got a section for deserts. Forests, grasslands, hills, swamps, mountains, even the Underdark, even urban monsters. So that'd be stuff like cats and bats and dogs and stuff like that. Then the next section has monsters all categorized by creature type. So that's where you're going to find where stuff is broken down by aberration, beasts, celestials, dragons, constructs, that kind of stuff. And then monsters by groups, which would be like your angels, your beholders, your demons. Oh, demons. Wasn't there a big rumor that they were trying to remove demons from D&D? Well, I'm going to confirm that was a bad rumor because this book, yeah, it's got demons in it. It does. Lycanthropes. And then it also has all the monsters by challenge rating, starting at challenge rating 0. And it goes up to The highest challenge rating in this is a challenge rating 30. Bonus points if anybody can figure out what that CR30 creature is. Give you a hint, it's one of the most famous ones out there. One thing I'm curious about, they had mentioned another rumor was that we would see Tiamat in this. And I don't think that's the case. But let me just, since everything is alphabetical, we've got, let me go back now, Troll, Treant, Troglodyte, Thrycreen, Tufts. Well, you know what? There's no Tiamat. There is a Tarask. That's the CR30 one. Spoiler, y'all. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. There's not an avatar of Tiamat. Yeah, that was one of the things I was kind of looking forward to. Like I said, again, we had heard rumors that there was going to be Tiamat stat block in this. So I wanted to kind of focus a little bit on the chat. Let me put my other eyeballs on real quick. So, a Nerd's Nerd asks, a setting with almost the entire adult population having been wiped out so their kids capture animals and force them to fight instead of going to school or getting jobs got dark. That sounds a lot like Pokemon. Yeah, that's what the hobgoblins were doing. They're Poke trainers. Mushroom Brigade asks, are the orcs in the monster manual? I heard they were removed. Well, let's take a look and see. I'm going to pop up this one. And we're going to kind of flip through it and take a look and see. I know that ogres are in it. And ogres are like onions. They have layers. But let's take a look in the O's. We've got pirates. Pirates are in it. Performers are in here. Owl bears. Hey, and you know what? Check this out. I even have in my version. See, in my version, Tiamat exists. It's Tiamat, though. I mean, with two T's. In my version, here's the owl bear. But we're looking for orc, right? There's the Oni. Ogres. No orcs. Orcs are not in here. Likely because wasn't the orc made a playable species in the player's handbook? Gosh, guys, I apologize there. My mind is blanking a bit. I've read so many different role-playing books from other systems, and now my mind has gone blank on that specific topic. I can't remember if D&D has. I would assume that they're. Yeah, you can play as an orc. Sorry, got it. Owlbear. Let's check out the owlbear since we're here. The owlbear is a large monstrosity, unaligned, has an armor class of 13, 59 hit points, a strength of 20. It's a challenge rating of 3. It can rend. But the cool part is you've got this primeval owlbear. Now, this one has an armor class of 16, which is up 3 from just a regular owlbear. It's a CR7, which the regular owlbear was a CR3. So this is 5 times or 5 points higher on a challenge rating. It can ravage. The ravage does 15, which is 2d8 plus 6 slashing damage. And if the target is huge or smaller, and the owlbear moved 20 feet straight towards it, immediately before the hit, the target takes an extra 9 slashing damage and is in the prone condition. Plus, it can make a really loud screeching sound. Well, like what an owl would do. Oh my gosh, it's moving on its own. There's my purple worm. I know y'all didn't want to see that, but I can confirm that the purple worm is in here. The pit fiend is in here. It's cool artwork too. Um, Poltergeist is in here, not the movie, but the creature. Purple worm is massive in this. Imagine almost a little bit like what you would see in the movie Dune. Not quite that big, but still pretty big. Big enough to swallow somebody whole. I'll put it that way. And guys, really at this point, I think I'm going to start wrapping because if I go any further, I'll probably start going into violation because I really want to be able to show you the innards of this book. It's very disappointing that I can't. So until they answer back to me, we're kind of stuck looking at my version of it. Yeah, it's frustrating. But I wanted to show you guys, give you guys all my first look, my interpretation of my first look. Yeah. I hope it was exciting. I hope there was something learned. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If there is a demand enough for it, we'll do another live stream, again. And hopefully, like I said, I did email WotC and ask them specifically about this, their such tight restriction. But the embargo itself lifted 2 days ago to be able to talk about the stuff inside the book. I'm hoping that by the early release, which I think is February 4th, or at least by the time the book is out, if you guys are just, my philosophy in this channel is bookstores, hobby shops, they're closing up left and right, right? And we used to be able to go in and pick up a book and thumb through it to see if it was any good, see if it would work at our table, see if there was stuff in there that just excited us and sparked our imagination. And now everything everybody wants you to do what I call buy blind. They don't really want to show you the inside of the book. They want to talk about it. And I'm not a fan of that. I don't like just talking about the book. I want to show you guys what you can expect to find if you spend your money on it. And buying blind also is going to a site like Amazon and buying it without looking through it, or going to D&D Beyond and buying it without looking through it. I am not a fan of buying blind. It's a hassle to return it if you want your money back, if you don't like it. And in some instances, you can't even get your money back. Like if you were to buy it on D&D Beyond, I don't think you can get a refund. I don't like that. To me, that's not a good practice. And so that's always been what this channel has been about, is to be those eyes that we used to have back in the day, where you could go into the bookstore or the hobby shop and open the book and flip through it to see if it was any good. But anyway, hopefully WotC will respond to my email soon, give me a touch more clarification on what can or cannot be shown within this. And we'll just kind of go from there. Until next our paths cross, I will say that WotC has shared some stat blocks, and you can find those on my YouTube channel. I have done videos on them, and they're all in a master playlist for the 2025 Monster Manual. So if you're interested in seeing those and seeing a little more deep dives into some of those, for example, like the violet fungus necro hulk, this guy, I did a full video doing a deep dive into him. So I highly recommend checking it out if you're interested. And like I said, until next our paths cross, may monsters fill your dreams and, I don't know, bring you a lobster dinner. Zell says, I understand why WotC won't allow their books to be seen. It really is understandable. Though what should be said is people be patient and go to the store and look at it and see if you want it. No, that's an excellent point. It's the fact that WotC throws out their pre-order this. Here's some perks. You get some digital dice, or you get, early access. Well, what if I pre-order it and it turns out to be total bunk? What if I don't like it? And then to the second to that is exactly what Seraphis points out. Doesn't make sense because Kobold Press, Paizo, Monte Cook Games, they all allow their books to be seen in reviews. And, they get it. They get it. I don't know what the stick is that WotC has about not letting that happen. I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know if they feel like they're so scared that people are going to pirate the information. Listen, piracy is not about the product itself. Piracy is about the lack of customer service from the company behind the product. And if that's what they're scared of, well, maybe have a better customer service practice. When I can go out, not that I do this, I don't condone piracy. I do not. But if I were to, how should I word it? If you piss me off because I have given you money and you refuse to give me a refund because I dislike the product or the product does not work for me, given a book, we may be talking apples to oranges here, but given a book may not necessarily fall into that category. But if I give you money and I don't like the product and you refuse to give me my money back, or real case scenario, I pre-order said product with the understanding that I will get it early, and you take back that promise, which is exactly what happened to me with the Vecna Eve of Ruin book, then folks that happened to with that bad customer service, they are more apt to go out there and find illegitimate copies of said material. Again, I'm not condoning it. I don't like the practice of it. I prefer to have actual physical product. I like to hold it. It's great material for when I'm sitting down pooping. Dramatic pause. My eyes don't do good with reading on my little phone and trying to pinch zoom, and I can't. I don't like that. I like the book. I like the material. I like the physical feel of it. Yes, it chews up space in my office, but that's me. But I think those are some of the things that would contribute to folks sailing the seas, as it were. You take a look at what Paizo is doing, with theirs, Monte Cook, Kobold Press, exactly what Seraphis was just mentioning in the chat. They encourage people to show their work off. They want people to see the artwork and the beautiful pages that they have worked hard to produce for folks. And what does that do? That encourages people to talk about it. I'm frustrated that I can't show you what's in here. It makes me, well, to use the word, it frustrates me to not be able to show it and not be able to fully talk about and examine up close and do deep dives. It's aggravating. But that's the reality that we're in at the moment. So anyway, I went on to a little tangent there. I apologize for that rant. And to that end, hopefully things will change and we can do some deep dives into more information that's in this book, because there is a bit more that I haven't touched upon. Again, this is kind of a first look. Me thumbing through it here and talking to you about it, that really was my first look. I got the box, I opened it, I just kind of quite, ooh, earthquake, just quite literally opened up like this and just kind of thumbed through it like that. And I hope that that doesn't get me in trouble. Anyway, I like the artwork in it. I like the artwork on the cover. I like the beholder. It's cool. And I like the menagerie of monsters that's on the back of it. That's cool too. Anyway, I'm rambling. To that end, I hope things change. I hope we can do deep dives into more of what is inside this book. I really want to be able to share more information with you. Do be sure to tune in, subscribe if you haven't. And again, until next our paths cross, may monsters fill your dreams and may they bring you a lobster dinner. Have a good night, all.